I gotta fix these. I don't know what I'm doing here. I cannot believe that it's almost the end of October. Can anybody else, all the people in the room, can you believe it?
This year has gone by fast, especially October. This month has just flown by.
I really feel like I just said, oh my god, I can't believe September is over. And I don't understand where 2016 went, and I would like the next couple weeks to maybe go by a little bit faster. But then I want time to slow down. Next week is Halloween already. Do you have, Jay, a favorite Halloween costume?
It's a tie between two. I remember when I was younger, I was very into comic books, and I wanted to be Cyclops from the X-Men for Halloween. But we could not find a Cyclops costume at all. So what my mom did is we got makeup, and you know how he has the yellow and with the red visor?
Yeah.
So she outlined my face with yellow, and then around my eyes was red. So she pretty much made me a Cyclops costume. And then probably, what was it? Was it last year when I was Michonne from The Walking Dead for Halloween?
That was 2 years ago.
Was that 2 years ago?
Yeah, we were in Wisconsin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I thought it was last year.
No, we went to Chris Estrela's Halloween party.
Yes.
So
oh, yeah, that was 2 years ago. But
Chris Estrela, who just had twins. Way to go!
But yes, those two were probably my favorite Halloween costumes, Cyclops and Michonne, because she's a badass. But what about you? What was your favorite?
Well, my mom somehow managed to have time to make everybody's Halloween costumes every year. She would start right after Halloween and make us our costumes for the next year, and we were everything from huge spiders to, I remember, apples with a worm coming out of it. And one year we were all the Wizard of Oz characters. So I have an older brother, a younger brother. I have a cousin who's a boy, and then a cousin who's a girl, and then me. And I made my cousin Kim... Did I already tell this story? Maybe I did. My cousin Kim be the Cowardly Lion so I could be Dorothy. And that says a lot about me as a person, and not a shocker later in life when things manage to come out. But I have a Wizard of Oz tattoo, and I love the Wizard of Oz. I think that was probably my favorite one that I can really remember, because I really thought I was Dorothy, and maybe I still do to this day. I think that was probably my favorite costume. And then once my friend Brienne went as Cruella de Vil, and I went as one of the puppies. So that was pretty fun too. We have an awesome show today. We're going to have some fun during the show, but it's also a very serious subject. My friend April is here to talk about animal cruelty and what we have to do and what she does to help animals who don't have a voice, and none of them do. And she has a big voice, and we're thankful for her. So we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back with April, and we're going to have a great conversation, and we're going to play a game, and we're going to give stuff away, and it's going to be fun. All right? We'll be right back. We're here with April, finally! I think we've been talking about you coming on the show since before the show started.
Yes.
And you're finally here. I'm so excited. We have so much to talk about, so if this ends up being a 9-hour, 2020 Dateline exclusive, here we go. Can you tell everybody, first of all, who you are and what you do?
So my name is April Doherty. I work at the Baltimore County State's Attorney's Office. We created our animal abuse unit, I guess, about 4 years ago now, in 2012. So essentially what we are trying to do is just spread awareness that animal cruelty is not acceptable, that abusing or hurting an animal is oftentimes a gateway crime to other crimes against people, and that's what we're calling the link.
So you said that we created it. Everything I've read on you, everyone credits you with starting it. How do you feel about that? Is that a lot of pressure? Is that accurate? Which I'm guessing it is, judging by your enthusiasm.
So it's pretty interesting. I had created a student animal legal defense fund at the University of Baltimore. And when I started learning more and more about animal cruelty and the statutes that actually allowed us to prosecute animal cruelty and take it more seriously, I went to the then state's attorney and started asking her some questions about it. She directed me to my now boss, Adam Lippy. And at the time, it just really, the laws were kind of new, and there really wasn't that much of animal cruelty coming in to make it something bigger. So essentially, I went to some of the state's attorneys, the assistant state's attorneys in the district court unit, and on one particular occasion, there were some pretty horrific pictures that nobody in the office wanted to look at. And I was more than happy to look at those pictures because I understood and knew the importance of going forward with an animal cruelty case. That particular case we ended up losing because we weren't able to prove that the person allowed the killing of the animals at that point in time. So we've had some additional cases after that, before the unit was created, where defense attorneys would laugh about the link where a domestic violence abuser threw a cat across the room, breaking its legs, and the defense attorney wanted to make a joke of that. It's just a cat, what does it matter? But it does matter, because when you look at that situation, it's a power and control wheel. He's not only abusing the cat because the cat is voiceless, but he's also asserting power and abusing that in that situation the woman as well. So that's kind of where we are coming from.
And I'll end up backtracking kind of, but when did you decide what happened where you were like, I need to do something and I need to take action and create something this is bigger than.
So that kind of was Adam, my boss, doing that a little bit more. He went to our current state's attorney, Scott Schellenberger, and was like, we're getting more of these cases in. Could we create a unit so that we can start, educating others of the importance of animal cruelty? So when we created the unit, we knew that we wanted to have that education element as well. So that's when we created our Animal Abuse Leadership Summit, and we started trying to connect with other groups in order to continue spreading that awareness about animal cruelty.
And you've been doing that since 2012, right? Is when the Animal Abuse Unit started.
Yes.
Have you always been an animal advocate? Did you have animals growing up? What made you fall more in love with making sure animals were taken care of?
So, yes, I've had animals growing up. We had bunny rabbits, we had cats, the whole nine. I remember a number of times a day driving past this one route, and I swore to my mom that it was a dead animal. And finally, the one day we had to drive past it to prove to myself that it really wasn't a dead animal that needed some sort of help.
Aww.
So I've always loved animals. It's always been a passion. And this is literally a dream come true for me because I get to do everything that I love. That is a passion for me.
That's why I wanted to talk to you, because you can tell when you talk to April, you can just see it oozing out of her, the love and the passion and the excitement. You're so excited to do it. And I love that people can take a passion and then actually turn it into a job and then love going to work. So many people have jobs that are like, I gotta go to work. But when work isn't work, then it's awesome.
Agreed.
Yeah. I grew up also, I remember we always had animals. We always had dogs. We always had cats. I was the one that would catch turtles and frogs. And one time my dad found a rabbit, stuck in a chain link fence. And so he brought that in and thought it would be a really good idea. And I don't know if he thought that it was going to magically get better, but it was then our pet for a while, and I named it Puddles. And then it died a couple days later.
Way to pull that sad one out.
Buzzkill. But Jay, you also, you grew up having dogs, right?
Oh yeah. I remember being younger, we always had dogs, and then one of what my mom did was when we all got a certain age, they would pretty much let us have a dog, and it was our responsibility to take care of the dog. So my first dog was a Rottweiler that I named Damien.
How old were you?
I was I want to say I was like 5.
Oh my
Right?
god.
Like, that's,
Yeah.
I love that idea of like,
Yeah.
you can get it, but it's your, like,
Yeah.
obviously there's like a parent watching to make sure you are taking care of it, but like to teach such responsibility at that age. I
Yeah,
love.
I was about to say I had a Rottweiler. My older sister, she had a pit bull, and my younger sister had a Chow.
Wow.
Can you imagine? Like, and you were all under the age of what, like 10?
Oh yeah. When we all got our first animal, yeah, we were all young.
Yeah.
And that's not counting the huge turtle we had in the backyard, and the pigeon coop we had. Yeah, it's very country.
Doesn't sound a bit like it at all. Ah. So, back to the city now. So you grew up with all the animals, obviously, and then, like, how does that flourish, like, into what it's become today?
So I guess in 2000, I started working in a law firm, and I had a friend who was vegetarian. She taught me all about, cruelty to animals in regards to, eating meat, testing on animals, and things of that sort. So I kind of became like one of those hardcore animal advocates where like you're this extreme.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a vegetarian actually for 10 years. In 2012, I actually became a meat eater again. When I moved to Harford County, I was able to interact with all of the farmers. I go straight to the farmers for all of my meat products now. But with personal training and everything, it was kind of something, it was one of those necessary things for me.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there are successful vegans and vegetarians out there, but for me, the strength part needed to have that meat component.
Okay. I want to talk to you. There's so many things you can talk to her about. What? Coffee? Yeah, we were talking before. She came in, I was like, do you want some coffee? And she was like, no, that's okay. And then she like went around the corner and we have a nice coffee machine. She was like, oh, yeah, maybe I'll take some coffee. She's like, I'm kind of a coffee snob. So the first hour of her being here was us talking about coffee. So we're going to open a coffee shop soon. And we haven't come up with a name yet, but we'll get there. So besides coffee, and we can talk about coffee all you want. Do you need any more coffee? Okay. I want to talk about I have 4 things I want to talk to you about animal abuse. So they're kind of questions, but I want you to sort of expand on them. First of all, everyone's role in fighting animal abuse in their community.
So the biggest thing that we've learned is that most of the people in our communities are willing to report animal cruelty or animal abuse, animal neglect. The simple difference there is if you see somebody kicking or killing an animal, that's animal cruelty. And then there's the other side of that, which is going to be the misdemeanor statutes typically, and that's the animal neglect. That's the act of an omission versus the act of commission. So in those specific situations, we're seeing more and more that people are willing to contact police when they see something like that happening. So, if you're not feeding your dog, or if you're not feeding your cats or your goats or your, cows and horses, people are calling that in. The big issue is that they didn't really know where to call it into. So that's kind of that component of education that we've also been working on.
Yeah, are there animals, well, this maybe sounds mean, but like, you'll take calls about any animal that anybody needs to report, correct?
Yes. There's just some different criteria that we have to look at when it comes to farm animals. But farm animals are included in the statute as well. In Maryland, there are some states where it's a little bit more specific in regards to the types of animals that may be included. And
that was what I wanted to talk to, or I wanted you to expand on too, is like learning the laws in your state, because every state is different. That's what's hard.
Yes, agreed. So in Maryland, we have the felony statute and we have the misdemeanor statute. So like I said before, it's the acts of commission, which is your intentionally kicking, intentionally killing, intentionally beating an animal. So that's something you definitely want to contact 911 immediately and make sure that you're reporting that, so that issue can be addressed at that point in time. Then there is the other side of that, which is the acts of omission, where you are not giving proper shelter, you're not giving proper water, protection from weather, food, those sorts of things. So, if you see a dog chained in the backyard, and he has no doghouse whatsoever, or he may not be able to reach the doghouse, things of that nature. Those are things that, typically people are going to be calling in about. If you're seeing a dog, and again, dogs are, I think, a little bit more visible because they're typically the ones that are being restrained outside. Versus cats are, you may see them in the neighborhood, but there's, most of the time the cats, if they're inside cats, you're not going to be seeing them unless you're going into that person's house.
So do you suggest, and then we're going to take a break, I promise, do you suggest, and I don't know, like, erring on the side of, like, being safe than sorry, like calling even if you are positive what you think, right? Like, so
we definitely get a lot of calls where people may think that it's animal neglect, and it doesn't rise to the standards to meet the statute specifications. Especially in the wintertime, you see the people calling in more and more about a dog that's being left outside. What they're missing could be the fact that the dog had just been let out. So they're not waiting for that lapse period of time. Or if you post something on social media, it's perfectly true, right? Everybody believes it.
Yeah.
So
it isn't official until it's on Facebook.
You post something on Facebook and immediately it goes viral. And so we love animals, you and I and Jay, right? But there's the people who tend to become that level. They take it to the level of extreme, right? And they end up basically knocking somebody's fence over and stealing a dog. So they, in effect, have committed a crime to save an animal that they believe is in some sort of danger, when in fact that particular animal was
just outside peeing.
Just outside, hanging out. He actually liked the weather. Yeah. So, there's definitely, criteria that needs to be looked at, and understanding the statutes is really important.
Okay. We're going to take a break. We have more questions, but I have two more in my little series here, and we'll be right back with April. All right, we're back with April. Oh, my dog is under the desk and he just hit me. During the commercial, Jay had a really good question, kind of observation. So you want to reiterate that so we can talk about it?
Yeah, sure. I find it interesting how you mentioned that in trying some cases, how some lawyers will just kind of shrug off animal abuse. But, there's been so many scientific studies and psychological analysis how animal abuse is usually like the first indicator for someone being, an abuser of people, or one of the first signs of a sociopath. So it's just kind of weird how they are so easy to just dismiss animal abuse in certain cases.
Absolutely. And I mean, earlier I think I mentioned that animal abuse is considered a gateway crime because it opens doors to those other crimes. So most of the time, one of the things that we're educating police officers about is when you're responding to a call, say for a domestic violence call, to look at the entire situation, because you may not just be seeing animal abuse or domestic violence, you may be seeing animal abuse and child abuse too. And I have a specific situation where I was able to get a dog out of a domestic violence situation because the kids, the police officers did a really good job responding to the call. They were able to extract from the kids that not only had dad abused mom, but he also had abused the kids on a number of occasions, and he also had taken the dog, threw her up against the wall by her neck, and had been abusing her on a number of occasions. She now has a forever home. She has a happily ever after, and she's absolutely amazing, wonderful, and totally steals my heart still to this day.
Isn't it crazy how, like, we watch Animal Planet all the time and watch all those crazy shows, but, like, how quickly they adapt to a great environment after they've been horribly abused or neglected. Like, that they just switch off, like, oh, this person loves me, so I'm going to love them back. Like, they have no filter.
Yeah, absolutely. Animals are resilient, and children are often very resilient too, right? Mm-hmm. So, my boss often says, you know, if you were to have a 5-year-old looking out the window and witnessing a crime, whether it be a crime against a person or a crime against an animal, would you want them to see that? You know, so considering, you know, another idea that has been considered is the broken window policy or theory, that if you go through a neighborhood and you see a broken window, if you don't do something about that broken window, then there's the chance that people will break into that house and live there. And it ends up maybe becoming, you know, a house for people who are using drugs or people who are committing other crimes. So it goes back to what Jay was saying, you know, it's kind of this continuing series of events, you know, one crime leads to another and another crime leads to another. You know, dog fighters, if you go to a dog fighting fight, dogfighting fight.
Yeah, I think that's right.
if you end up at a fight, you know, which is, you know, a crime, so you shouldn't go there. But you're going to often find gambling, possible gang involvement, possible drug use, and a whole wide array of other situations. You know, you're probably going to find guns there.
Yeah, it's not usually just the one thing.
It's not. Yeah. And that's the important thing to get police officers to look at and understand, that, you know, that animal abuse is often the easier crime to prosecute when we may have a reluctant witness in our domestic violence cases or child abuse cases. It's not that we're trying to prioritize that animals are more important. It's that we're trying to make that connection and use animals as a tool.
I mean, we're going to play a game later because this is obviously such a fun topic. But it has to be so overwhelming to be around this all the time. Do you have a story that sticks out to you that is either a great story or not so great story, but just something that really keeps you going every day?
So definitely the happily ever afters helped me the most. You know, especially getting, we haven't really had a ton of cats. So it's more the dogs and dogs are, you know, kind of like my specialty. But there's definitely a number of cases where, you know, you get to see the pictures of the happily ever after, and the pictures are the best evidence because it proves that the animal can be rehabilitated, that the animal, you know, didn't need to end up in this particular way, you know, that the abuser had it in that situation. So, you know, there's, you know, Chance just passed away not too long ago. He was severely neglected. He was not physically abused, but he was severely neglected. He went to a home where the lady took very good care of him. And of course, I got to smooch his face with which was the best thing ever. There's Tank. Tank was rehabilitated. He's in a forever home. He's nice and fat, which, you know, is the best evidence ever. Again, you know, the rescues are the huge supporters of a lot of our court case dogs that help them get out into a forever home.
Well, and besides your actual work, you also volunteer a ton. You're also a foster mommy to a puppy, right? You have how many dogs do you have in your house right now?
So I have a forever dog named Orbit, and he is a dog that I adopted from Baltimore Bully Crew. His story is actually kind of interesting. He was owned by a drug dealer. Drug dealer tried to get him to fight. He wouldn't fight. Put him out. Homeless couple takes him. He's a nomad on the streets of Baltimore, totally depressed, emaciated, no pads on his feet. The homeless couple was moving to New York, and Baltimore Bully Crew went in, ended up purchasing him from the homeless couple, and he became a Bully Crew dog and ended up in our home, thanks to my husband, who was not looking to get another dog.
You never are you? I don't think that's how it works. It's when you're not looking that they end up at your doorstep. Speaking of which, you just had an anniversary, didn't you?
We did.
So congratulations.
We did.
How many years?
9 years.
9 years, 2 dogs. Life is good.
Great supporter.
That's right. That's good. That's what you need. Baltimore Bully Crew. Do you want to talk about that? I know you work a lot with them.
So Baltimore Bully Crew is my absolute heart, obviously because of Orbit, but you know they are currently they're currently backing me on my foster pickle right now, who seemingly has a lot of allergy issues. But Bully Crew is just absolutely amazing. They're family. You know, when I adopted Orbit, I ended up, you know, adopting a family as well. So I help out as much as I can with all of their fundraisers. Eric he's one of the co-founders of Baltimore Bully Crew. He comes and does, you know, a segment on dogfighting with our police officers. And he's really amazing at doing that. So.
And how can people, if people are interested in fostering or learning more or volunteering, how do they, it's a pretty easy website to get a hold of the Baltimore Bully Crew, because it's baltimorebullycrew.com, right?
It is.
Okay, good. And I mean, are you always looking? I'm assuming you're always looking for volunteers, foster homes, everything, right?
Yes, absolutely. If you're willing to foster, you know, go online, fill out the foster application, and definitely we need fosters always.
And are you still working with the Show Your Soft Side?
Yes.
Okay. It's just, I don't understand. Apparently, April has more than 24 hours in a day.
So Show Your Soft Side is one of the backers for our Animal Abuse Leadership Summit. They photographed Adam and I guess 2 years ago now, something like that. So it was really, really cool to just be able to get that little bit of extra awareness out there, because their campaign is surrounded by famous people, movie stars, you know, a lot of awesome athletes. And here you have these two, you know, people who are out there fighting animal abuse. And you know, we had our little sign up on the bus stops and stuff. So I hope that people were able to just gain that extra awareness from our campaign. So
that's fun. Before we take our break and talk about the summit, because that's coming up, and I want to talk about that, we're going to play a game, because I think it's time for a game. April decided that we were going to play the headband game that we created. And so do you want the headband on your head, or do you want it on mine?
On yours.
Great, super. Have you ever played this before?
Nope.
All right, so I'm going to put this on. Now, I don't know what's on these cards. We have to get 6 in 60 seconds. Jay, you're going to keep track of time, I hope. And if you get me to guess what's on the card, 6 in 60 seconds, we're going to be able to give away a $20 Street Boutique gift card to someone who likes it, and if not, then you get nothing. And the reason why it's Street Boutique is because I own it, and because April's wearing something from the truck, and I'm wearing something for the truck, and why not plug everything we have? Okay, so I don't know what's on these, so you have to describe the word on the card to me without saying the word, and yell a lot when I get it right, okay? Are we ready? Are you ready with the time?
I am.
Okay, here we go.
You eat them at the baseball game. Chew them up and spit them out.
Peanuts?
No, smaller.
Smaller than peanuts? Cracker Jack.
No!
Smaller than peanuts?
Yes!
What's smaller than peanuts?
They come in flavors. Dill pickle and barbecue and it's like Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
Okay, pass. I don't know what that is.
Oh, it's a love holiday.
Valentine's Day.
Yes. Lots and lots of noodles.
Soup?
No.
Lots of
with
noodles.
marinara.
Spaghetti.
Yes.
Oh.
When you leave a dog in a car for a really long time and it gets really
Hot.
uh-huh.
Hot flash.
No.
Hot.
But the thing that's in the car.
Hot dog.
Yes.
I don't know how many I'm at, but
10 seconds.
It's in a tank.
a fish.
Yes,
Fish
but
fillet.
It's the color.
Fish.
The color.
Color of what?
The color that your
blue
walls
fish.
are.
Orange fish. Goldfish. Goldfish.
You're terrible at this. Snickers.
Uh-huh.
3, 2, 1.
I'm the bad one. Snickers. Candy bar. What was that first one?
Sunflower seeds.
Oh yeah, sure, that's right. You're right. Sunflower seeds are smaller than. I don't know how many I got. Damn it.
1, 2, 3, 4.
That's close enough. We'll give something away. So like the show or the video, and then we'll pick a winner next week. All right, good. We're going to take a break. Thanks for playing. But apparently I'm the one that sucked. And we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the summit, all right?
Sounds good.
All right, good. All right, we're back with April. We're going to finish this up now, I promise. There's been a lot of chat in between the breaks, and so we're going to get her out of here soon. I want to talk about all the teaching you do and the summit that's coming up. Can you talk about the Baltimore County Academy and what you do with that?
Okay, so a couple of years ago, we started doing animal abuse investigations where we get the police officers to come in, and it's an elected course, so it's the police officers that want to come to the training. And essentially, we're educating them on how to respond to various crimes, not only animal cruelty and animal abuse, but those linked crimes, domestic violence, dog fighting, yada, yada, yada. And it's seemingly going really well. Every year we have more and more people sign up for it. We also bribe them with donuts and Pizza John's pizza.
I'm coming. Sign me up.
So, yeah.
And you also, I know we've talked a lot about Maryland and everything, but you go outside of Maryland and you've gone other places to help get the word out and start changing things, right?
Yes. So there's a lot of partners in this movement. There's the Humane Society of the United States, the ASPCA. There's a lot of members who have been doing this for 20 plus years. I was just elected as the co-chair for the National Coalition on Violence Against Animals, and part of that is just the education factor, getting it out there to not only police officers, animal control officers, but to the veterinarians, to the to the sheriffs, everybody else who is seeing these incidents firsthand, so that they know what they can do when those situations are in front of them.
It's a lot of work, and a lot of pressure. That could be that should be someone's entire job, really, is to get that out there. There's so much, and so many, you brought up veterinarians. I'd never thought of that before. That would be a really good place to start, so veterinarians can kind of track or be able to see the signs of what's coming in.
Absolutely.
I never thought of that.
Yeah. A veterinarian who has a patient coming in that clearly is showing signs of being beaten, has a broken leg. They might not want to call and report that because there's a concern of loss of business. But there's ways to get around that for sure, and that's where I kind of work some of my magic.
And that's where you come in. Surprise! All right, let's talk about the Animal Abuse Leadership Summit. It's in the beginning of November 4th. Can people still sign up, right?
People can still sign up, absolutely.
Where do they go to sign up?
So you can go on Facebook to the Richard Wilmore show because
we're gonna put the
links. Share
we'll
that.
Put the links. Don't worry. Yeah. I'm also guessing if you Google it, you'll be able to find them, right?
Maybe I'm a little technology challenged a little bit, so it's a flyer that I put on Facebook.
Yeah, but there's a website, right? No? You fill out a piece of paper?
Well, you just send an email to me.
Well, there you go. What's your email? Tell the people.
So you can send an email to Doherty, Doherty, at Baltimore County, spelled out, MD, no abbreviation, .gov.
Okay. And what's it going to be about?
So every year we like to have a theme, and this year's theme is social media because, like we said earlier, if it's on social media, it's got to be true, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of the things that we're seeing is how much the media has impact, whether it be, the news media or social media. Things are going viral very quickly nowadays. So just, knowing how to deal with that, reiterating that you should not report stuff to Facebook because then they take it down and we've lost our evidence. So we have an amazing speaker coming in from Atlanta, Georgia. She is the assistant district attorney in Atlanta, Georgia, and she's just a wonderful technology wizard with that stuff. We have Mark Kumpf, who is coming from Ohio. He's also going to talk, and everybody is going to have a point in their presentation where they're going to be, addressing that social media aspect to their presentations. We actually have a local person coming from Harford County. We have Melissa Goodman. She's coming from the Susquehannock Wildlife Society.
It's the hardest word for me to say. I had to say it once in front of people, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, it's a little difficult. It's a tongue tire. But she's a wildlife rehabber. She's actually a master wildlife rehabilitator now. So she's going to come in, and she's also going to hit on that social media component, just because it has also affected her in her rehabilitation efforts.
And it's one day. Can anybody go to it?
Yes, so anybody can come to it. We have police officers, we have prosecutors, veterinarians, animal advocates. Am I forgetting anyone? Animal control officers. So it is open to everyone. We like to get everybody there together so that we can have a big discussion.
And you're also a speaker.
Well, so my name is on there just for a brief moment because I'm going to use my captive audience for some research that I've been trying to dig a little bit more into about domestic violence and the link to animal cruelty, because we're seeing a lot more of that in a lot of our cases.
This is probably such a very broad question maybe, but is there anything that's coming up or that you're working on that you're getting closer, you feel like we're closing the gap on this, or that there's success that's maybe on the horizon when it comes to animal cruelty and charging people and getting it taken care of? Or do you think it's going to just be continuing something that we have to keep up on?
I think unfortunately, I don't know. Part of me wants to say, unfortunately, I think we're going to have to keep up on it. But then the other part of me is just that animals are a part of family today. A child is more likely to grow up with a pet in the home than a father in the home. And that statistic goes all around, nationwide. So I think that, animals being family members is going to hold people more and more accountable, especially when they are educated that there is something they can do, and there is a statute that supports, cruelty to animals.
Yeah, so the hope is that you don't have to do this anymore. But thankfully, we have people like you to at least educate us so we do know what's out there and that we can be proactive.
Absolutely.
So I thank you for being here. You're amazing.
Oh,
I want to be you when I grow up. So look up the Animal Abuse Leadership Summit. We don't know the website. There isn't a website. There's a piece of paper, maybe a Post-it note on April's desk, and that's how you sign up. Because we're all professionals around here. All right, April, thank you for stopping by.
Thank you.
I love you. We'll see you next week. I love you. Goodbye.